and the Red and White Road to Trial Night. I'm John Garner. I'm the Director of Sport for Equestrian Canada. And yeah, let's give it up. Not Garner, everybody. Not an Olympian. Just one quick PSA. On your way in, you may have noticed a Canadian flag, the maple leaf, on a table with some squiggles on it. Please sign it. It's going to go down to Tryon for the riders to hang on the barn, just to show that all our support as they strive for glory in September. Enough of that. It is my pleasure and absolute honor to introduce our guest speaker for tonight, a gentleman who probably many of you know, as well known for his blonde flowing locks as well as his exploits on the cycling track. Curt was first introduced to the sport of cycling by his high school football coach as a way to keep fit during the off-season. And during one ill-fated tryout for the Ontario Hockey League, he decided that cycling was probably the way to go. Clearly a good choice. His pursuit carried on, and very quickly, just one short year later, he was representing Canada at the Pan American Games in Caracas, Venezuela, where incredibly he came back with a 4th place finish at his first major championships. His drive and passion for the sport, guys, if you're applauding every start, we're never going to get through this thing. We've got time constraints. His drive to be the best was clearly evident over the next number of years. For 11 years through into his retirement, he held the world record for match sprint and was the first person to ever break the elusive 10-second barrier, which is an incredible feat. I came close once, but I was going downhill. It got a bit scary. Curt represented Canada competitively at 4 Olympic Games, coming home with 1 silver and 2 bronze medals. Incredible performances. But Curt being Curt, didn't stop there. 30 national titles under his belt. He also tried his hand at as a color commentator. Not an easy transition, let me tell you, going from the competitive field into the sport that you know, because you have to tell people what's going on. Sometimes your fellow athletes don't really like what you have to say, but truth is the truth, and if you're slow, you're slow. And Curt did a great job. Any of you that were listening to cycling in Sydney, from Sydney, Athens, or London, he did an absolutely fantastic job. And in that time, he also tried his hat at a different gig, which was as assistant chef de mission, the big job, heading down to the Pan American Games in Guadalajara, Mexico. Clearly, he did a good job, as 4 years later, he was leading the team for the Toronto Games in 2015, which was an incredible event. 1 year later, he led the most accomplished team of Olympians in Rio, where we were very fortunate, I think, as equestrians, to have a very small part of that heroic effort with Eric Lamarz's incredible bronze medal on the Great Fine Lady. But it doesn't stop there. No, so if you need to recharge your glasses, this might be the time. Curt just doesn't stop. And he's very, very much into giving. He's spent 2 minutes with him and you're hooked. Very involved in Special Olympics and the Great Right to Play movement, which is, if anybody's cast a glance at that, it's an incredible, incredible initiative. In 2005, Curt was inducted into the Canadian Sports Hall of Fame. A year later, another Hall of Fame beckoned, the Canadian Olympic Hall of Fame in 2006. And earlier this year, Curt was bestowed the highest honor a civilian can get in Canada and was entered into a member of the Order of Canada. But Curt's affinity with the saddle is not just stuck with 2 wheels. Curt is an avid horse owner, allegedly. And along with his family, we're very lucky to have here Olivia's daughter and Vicky, who we are extremely fortunate to have as the chair of our Equestrian Canada Dressage Committee. Thank you for coming. But enough from me. It's time now to hand you over to the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Victoria Winter.
I got nothing to say. How's everybody at the back of the room? Everybody can see all right? I'm going to do some magic tricks. Hopefully you don't miss anything and accuse me of having sleight of hand. I'm just joking, of course. Yes, my name is Curt Harnett. A lot of you came here as worse people going, who the heck is our keynote on Friday night? Curt Harnett. You Googled me, of course. Right? And what's the first thing that comes up when you Google me? Curt Plus commercial. Sure, I've tried other 2-in-1s, but to me, Curt Plus is the best. Yep, that's plagued me my entire career, well, since 1992 when that commercial did show on television ad nauseum. And not only did it show in English, but it also showed in French and another language that I don't speak, Italian. Io non parlo italiano, io solo parlo inglese. Real honor to be here in front of a fellow audience, actually so many familiar faces in the room, but of course, as John pointed out, we share affinity for the saddle. Mine a little bit smaller, not necessarily a little bit harder, but maybe for some, but definitely was blessed with an opportunity to see the world by the seat of my pants. The journey that I've had in life and that sport brought me has been significant and has brought me to this day to share with you just how amazing and how amazing sport can be and the power of sport and the passion that we all share for that. My journey started, as was pointed out, my first big international cycling race was at the '83 Pan Am Games in Caracas, Venezuela. I ended up 4th in the competition, but I was still a junior rider, still cutting my teeth, and quite frankly, just 2 years into, or a year and a half into international competition. That next year I ended up at the Olympic Games in Los Angeles, shooting for a top 5 finish. Ending up on a podium with a silver medal around my neck. To say that my rise in my career was meteoric, if that is a word, let's pretend that it is just between us, is an understatement. But it was one, that rise that came quickly, and I found myself in the international spotlight very, very, very quickly in 1984, and I'm not going to allow you guys, I'm going to talk faster so you can't do the math, but in 1984, at 19 years old, I found myself entrenched in really what was something that brought me a tremendous amount of joy. My journey continued on. As a cyclist, I didn't live in the world of notoriety. I didn't live where the media wanted to know every second of every day what I was doing, who I was talking to, or how I was performing. I was really given 4 minutes every 4 years to make a name for myself, to establish myself. Because in making a name for myself and in establishing myself, that's how I could afford to continue on for the next 4 years. So my coach and I developed a plan, and our sports plan was a 4-year plan. We're all used to that, the quad. But we lived in that environment. As an athlete, I lived in that environment. From macro to micro cycles, understanding where I was going to be within a block every week for every 4 years. That journey brought me to the 1988 Olympics. Came into the 1988 Olympics as a medal hopeful, and quite frankly, a gold medal hopeful, and those games did not go as I had planned. Circumstances that taught me a lesson in being responsible for my own equipment. My lovely wife Vicky's sitting there going, "Oh, tell the story, tell the story." Save that for later. I'll tell it by the bar later. We don't have time to tell that story. But so in my journey, as my life and my career sort of went along, I was in the early stages seeing the highs and the lows. But in that journey and on that journey, as we all know as athletes, as competitors, in seeing these competitors on a daily basis, we know that our lives are built around, and our success is built around failure. It's about pushing our limits and finding and tripping and falling and getting back up and dusting ourselves off and getting back on that horse. Kind of funny, I say that all the time and it kind of means something to you guys in the crowd here. But getting back up on that horse and doing it again, and doing it again, doing it again until you get it right. Business plan, revamped, go to 1992. 92 Olympics, another medal favorite. Once again, reestablish myself on the international circuit, go into those games, come home at the Barcelona Olympics with a bronze medal around my neck. Career is back on track, as if you were to look at it in that short period of time, those 8 years. Kind of seeing the highs, down on the lows, back up on the podium. When we sit down, Coach and I, at the end of that season, 1992, of course, with so many bottles of Plus shampoo around me, giving the stuff away. Really, actually, seriously, what? We ran out of it a year or so ago, finally. Finally had to go buy the stuff. Of course, I don't buy that stuff. This is really just a way. I am joking. This is being recorded. Love Plus. Love it. But my coach and I sit down after the 92 Olympics and we look to the next 4 years. We see what's going on. What is happening? I'm no longer a kid. I'm no longer 19 years old. My body's changing. I can't adapt. I can't perform. I can't push myself. So we had to rethink what the next 4 years looked like. But what we recognized, I had a nickname in the competitive world, in the cycling world. And no, it wasn't Superman. I said, no, it wasn't Superman. Thank you. My nickname was given to me by the Germans, and they called me Der Weiße Hai, the white shark. Some of it obvious, some of it not so obvious. But why they called me, and I looked at that and I said, killer instinct, right? Like, take no prisoners, win at all costs, take down my opponent, thrash around, spit him out, come across the finish line, collect my medal. No. They called me Der Weiße Hai because as I rode a bike, I looked like a shark swimming through water. You guys are smart. You realize that's not a good thing. So as we sat down, my coach and I, we sat down and reviewed what the program was going to look like. We came to a realization I needed to change the way I rode a bike. I needed to change. Because of the way I pushed on the pedals and I applied the pressure to the pedals, I was not, a pedal stroke on a bicycle should be about 300 or 360 degrees. There's always the transition to the top dead center for the mechanics in the room, but there's a time where the foot transitions from coming up to going back down to apply pressure where it has to sort of sit neutral. But the thing is that you get it from both. You get it from both feet. I was applying more just downward pressure and not enough pulling up. So we had to change the way I sat on a bike. And that came in the way of moving my seat back 5 millimeters and down 2 millimeters. Back 5, down 2. And that was a massive, massive change. 1993, at the World Cycling Championships in Hamar, Norway, I didn't even make it out of the first round. At the 1994 World Championships in Palermo, Spain, or Palermo, Italy, barely made it out of the first round, got to the second round, and crashed. I remember sitting on the infield of both Hamar, Norway, and Palermo, Italy. I was going to say Palermo, Spain again. I think I want to go to Spain. Sitting in the infield in tears, devastated, and looking at my coach and saying, Des, I don't think this is working. Like, I got to go back. I go, we got to figure this out. Something's wrong. Just couldn't bring that dramatic of a change, or some small change, to the finish line. We got to a certain stage where testing and everything, the training, all the racing I was doing, would bring me to a certain point, but when it came time to refine it, and bring it into its final sharpness, I could put it in the drawer, we were failing. Winter of 1994, I would get a little time in the off season, sitting at home, reflecting. 95 season starts up. The beauty of cycling is that, quite frankly, you're chasing summer all the time. Geez, doesn't that sound familiar? Wellington Nights. I was just California. Not in Florida. A little more liberal. Didn't think I was going to get political. I don't know where that came from, but it's on record now, so I'm wearing red. Got down to California, started preparing myself for the season, and then things started happening. And we started noticing really, really big differences. Things started improving. The power that I was able to put through those pedals was just growing, just from a perspective that you may or may not appreciate. We put out, a bike rider puts out, a sprint rider like myself puts out in a 10-second burst about 2,300 watts, which is about 3 horsepower, just over 3 horsepower. So we generate a significant amount of power. The equipment needs to be made to do that. But we started testing and seeing these great improvements. And at the World Championships in 1995 in Bogota, Colombia, as we were dodging gunfire. The year before in Palermo, Italy, where that was in 94, they were blowing up judges on the highway, right? That's where they were taking down kilometer stretches of highway to blow up the judges in Palermo. Next year we're in Bogota, Colombia, dodging gunfire. The hotel that I stayed in, I would always want to acclimatize to where I was. We'd been staying in Colombia for a while, but always wanted to stay constant with the temperature, the pressure, all that stuff. I didn't want to be in an air-conditioned room. All that to say that. That's why I charge by the minute when I speak. Remember sitting there with the airflow in the middle of the night, with just all you heard was gunfire going on in the city. It was absolutely ridiculous. But the velodrome was a beautiful outdoor track, 10,000 feet, so thin air, really fast track. We knew going into those World Championships, somebody was going to break the world record. We knew that potentially, it had been forever, that this, the world record stood at 10.014 seconds. Forever it stood at that time, but we knew at these World Championships somebody was going to do it. The way I had been performing at World Championships, I was going, well, that's not going to be me. Again, that's supposed to be funny. We should get a laughter thing. I'll just kind of push a button. So, push comes to shove. I do a type of cycling called match sprinting. That's where I race against, it's kind of this cat and mouse, and you race around the track, and all of a sudden a burst of speed happens, and you chase the guy down, somebody comes across, finish lines with their arms in the air, and they put a medal around their neck. It's a tournament that lasts 3 or 4 days. And what we do is a qualifying round to seed everybody as to who will go first and who will, second and third, and everybody races off. You get Qualifying round is where I set a world record. The funny thing about that world record is that everybody kind of knew we were going to go fast, but I was sort of because of my performances at past worlds, I wasn't highly seeded in the qualifying round. So I went with about 10 riders to go. And some guys had already broken the world record, but they hadn't broken 10 seconds yet. So Curt goes out there, and I remember sitting with my coach. Well, we're gonna be here all night, guys, because this story is great. But I remember sitting there with my coach, and track bikes are fixed gears. If you know what a fixie is, right? It's a direct drive. We don't have brakes or gears on our bikes. So when we race, it's like stopping is usually hitting somebody or slowing down due to friction, or the friction of the track. And by friction of the track, I mean crashing and sliding. And you have to choose, before you go do your ride, you got to choose what gear that's going to be. Of course, experience teaches you this. Right? So I get in and we take a chance. We say, we're going to take a chance to go a gear bigger than what I would normally ride. I go out, I do my time, and there's been a couple world records, so the scoreboard would light up when they got the time, right? World record, fake fireworks and stars flashing on the screen. Curt comes across the finish line, and it's a big turn, and there's the big screen, right? And I come across the finish line, and they were immediately putting that stuff up on the scoreboard, right? And I didn't see any stars or any fireworks. Well, so it's, so max speed, we hit about 75 kilometers, 76 kilometers an hour. So it takes a lap or two to slow down, unless you crash or you run into somebody, previously stated. I remember sort of seeing that, sort of slowing down. My coach has to catch me because we're strapped into the pedals. I can't put my foot down. And I just remember putting my arm around him and going, Des, I guess we chose the wrong gear. That's going to be another one of those years, right? Just when it came time to perform, crap, right? We took our chance. We got the tournament to go. It's like, I'm not going to qualify. If I'm going to qualify, it's not going to be that bad, but it's not where we thought. Get off the track. I'm down the infield. And what they're doing is they're running guys. So when I'm coming off, there's already somebody on the track. A couple of more guys go, they do 10-1s and 10-2s, la-di-da, right? And I remember sitting on the infield of the track, and all of a sudden, one guy goes, and it's like he posts at 10.3, and 10 seconds, 10.3 seconds, sorry to start getting all sports specific on you. But I remember sitting there, and all of a sudden the scoreboard lights up. And it's fireworks and whatever. And what they would do, and it was new world record, and then they would post the top 5 times. And at the top, it was Curt Harnett from Canada at 9.865 seconds. Not only the fastest man, though, of course, there's now 6 or 7 of the best in the world yet to go. Not only were there 6 or 7 riders to go, but I was the first man to break the 10-second barrier, rider after rider. Now I'm just sitting there, right, watching these guys go, right? Well, what happened is the officials didn't believe the time. Who's an official in the audience? Guys will raise your hands. Take away the drink tickets. What I remember is they reviewed the tape for what would have been 5 or 6 minutes to see where I cheated. Where did I skip the line? How did I do that? Curt Harnett from Canada, this long, flowy blonde hair. He can't go that fast. Their voice so high. They're all French officials. No, not Quebecois. No, like French. In fact, some of them are Swiss French. One of the most amazing things that happened to me after that day, now I went on to silver at those World Championships. I didn't win the World Championships that year. Quite frankly, no raining here. But one of the most amazing things happened when all the qualifying was done. So everybody rode. I ended up being fastest qualifier. It ended up that 4 of us did break the 10-second barrier, but nobody beat my time. And one of my long-standing, toughest competitors of the world was an East German guy who is now at this point in time German, who is 6'4", outweighs me by about 8 kilos, looks like and talks like Arnold Schwarzenegger. And he comes rolling over and just, a heart of gold this guy had. He just bear hugs me. And he goes, "Curt, never in my life I live to see a man go that fast." This guy's like, your idol is walking up. It was like one of those moments. Are you okay on time? I'm sorry, guys. Because of course, this is the lead up to 96. Curt, can you come speak for 20 minutes and get everybody? 96. I'm going into the 96 Olympics. I'm about to retire. And I'm going in knowing it's my last race. I'm going to get a haircut and a real job. After the 96 Olympics. Not only that, I've got a bronze medal and I got a silver medal. What else? I'm going to go in and I'm going to complete the collection, right? Train the year, have an amazing year. Being a cyclist from Canada, not a ton of support. Just not available to me, that's that. But I had great friends in Australia. And I had been training and racing with them and preparing with them for so many years. One of my toughest and staunchest competitors was also one of my best mates, a guy by the name of Gary Niwan. We raced each other for 12 years. And then the last 2 years of our career, well, my competitive career, we trained together. I trained with the Australians because they recognized that not only were they getting better because of me, but I was getting better because of them. And they loved this Commonwealth idea because we were breaking down. The Eastern Bloc owned sprint cycling for so many years, and we were breaking down those barriers. They wanted nothing more than to have an athlete, have a Commonwealth competitor that's not from Great Britain beat those Eastern Europeans. So I was blessed. I was blessed with that support. When I went to California, and it was 1996, my last year racing. I'm 30 years old. I'm sleeping on the floor of my coach's condo. In his office. Every morning I'd roll up my mattress, stuff it in the corner, and that was his office. Train through the season, going awesome. We would, at 6 weeks out before the Olympics, Gary and I, we go off and do our separate training regimes to prepare, because you got to have some tricks up your sleeve. So we go to do final prep separately. I get into the Olympic Games. Gold medal, one of the gold medal favorites, right? My performance the year before has everybody hopped. I'm in Sports Illustrated, I'm in Time Magazine. I don't have a shampoo commercial, but everybody is reciting it in French and Italian as well. And it's my opportunity. It's my opportunity to complete this collection. Tournament happens. I qualify second to Gary Niwan when we shook hands at the end of the training camp that we had before we went our separate ways. See you in the final, Gary. See you in the final. Gary qualifies first, I qualify second. The tournament unfolds July 27th, 1996. That night before July 26th, at the International Zone in Atlanta, what happens? A bomb goes off. Wake up that morning of the 27th, and underneath my doors is slipped a note. There was a bombing at the International Center. One person was killed. It's all we know at the moment. My family is down in Atlanta. This is actually kind of the first cellular Olympics. I'm got the opportunity. Phone my father, everybody okay? Everybody's okay, but what a way to wake up in the morning. Bit of an off day for me. And it's quarterfinals and semifinals. Don't have a great quarterfinals, and I suck in the semis. Racing a guy by the name of Marty Nostein from the US. Marty just kicks my butt. Well, it takes me 2 straight. In fact, yeah, great Vicky, I've still got the Adidas mark on my butt from how hard he kicked it. Devastates me. Just kills me, kills the dream. Because as I lose the semifinals, now I got to race for the bronze medal the next day. So I've lost my chance at the gold. And the velodrome was a 40-minute drive from the village. And we were lucky with Canada that, of course, because it was a terrestrial games, we had a lot of support a lot of vehicle support down there from our friends at AMJ, Campbell Van Lines. No, I wasn't in a moving truck. But they had brought a bunch of vans down. So I was able at least to have that opportunity to make my own way between the velodrome and the village and back. And I remember sitting in the van just trying to reconcile, just trying to get to know why am I here? Like the dreams just died. Why bother? And I remember getting to the village, University of Georgia campus, right next door to Coca-Cola's head office. To get in my room and notice a can rolling across the floor because it's the cockroach that is getting his exercise in, not expecting me that early. And I remember just sitting on the edge of my bed and I'm just reflecting. I'm just sitting there and going, man, I can't come to grips with it. And then I flash back. I did my final preparation in Minneapolis, Minnesota, just north of Minneapolis, Minnesota. US at the time was running all of these sort of National Olympic festivals. So they were building all of these facilities, and they built this velodrome north of Minneapolis. It was the perfect place, the perfect setting for me to do my final preparation. And the other thing was I had a girlfriend at the time who had a little boy. And so they would come down and visit on the weekends. Little guy's named Skyler, who's not a little guy anymore. He's 28 years old and must be a firefighter in Thunder Bay. But Skyler was at that time learning how to ride his bike without training wheels. And of course, he would see me riding around the track, going around in circles. So we'd go back to the hotel at night. What did he want to do? He wanted to go ride his bike. So I'd get my training day in. I'd be doing what I was doing, and we'd have dinner, and I'd go out in the parking lot. He'd be riding his bike. And we decided that we were going to take the training wheels off of him. I remember running with him one time, and he's going, Curt, don't let go, right? So he's riding along, and he can sort of feel me, and I let go. And as he rides off, he's saying, okay, don't let go, don't let go, don't let go. And of course, he kind of gets to the end of the ride, he hits a curb, he falls over slightly. But minor incident, compound fracture. But he falls over, and the helmet's a bit askew, but he looks back and he realizes that he just rode the bike by himself. And the look on his face that he had when he saw that, when he recognized that, when he realized that. I remember sitting on my bed in my dorm room at Georgia University, Georgia Tech, or whatever it was. I remember sitting there and that moment playing through my head. And I remembered that face, and I remembered my face. I remember myself. Remember that time I learned to ride my bike without my training. It was the freedom that gave me. The doors of opportunity that opened. I remember that moment. I remembered that moment so vividly. That's why I was there. That's why I was sitting on the edge of that bed. Because I was that kid, fulfilling my dreams and my ambitions and my aspirations, all by a bike, all through a bicycle, all through sport. That next day, not only did I lose my semifinal match, July 28th, 1996, my parents went to serve the wedding anniversary. Remember showing up at the track? Because not only did I lose my semifinal match, but Gary Niewant lost his semifinal match. And so it's going to be Marty Nostein and Jens Fiedler from Germany for the gold and silver, and Curt Harnett and Gary Niewant for the bronze medal. 4 riders. I remember thinking to myself, this kid's going to have the best days. And I don't care what happens, but I'm going to have the best time riding my bike. I'm the time of my life riding my bike today. See Gary at the line. Hey, mate, guess we're not riding for the gold today, are we? He wasn't as bright-eyed about it as I was. I can tell you Gary Niewant's stories that he should have been happy that I was saying that to him, but I'll save those for the bar. The race that we do is the best 2 out of 3. You have to lose twice to be eliminated. It's a great way. It's a great way of process. So first rider to 2 wins the tournament or wins the race, and in this instance wins the bronze medal. First race, Gary and I go, and having ridden against each other time and time again, race to a photo finish. Photo finish. Get off the bike, come across the line. You know when you come across the line, even in a photo finish, whether you've won or lost, right? You got to sort of play the game because of those officials, sort of make fool them. Kind of like dressage. Came across the finish line. I actually didn't know. You kind of had to think, but he came across the finish line. Took them 10 minutes to figure it out. And I say to people, my grandmother just recently passed away. It's like, believe what you want to believe, but it was like the first time in my life I really prayed. First time I was like, I just need this, just to keep that spirit alive. 10 minutes later, decision comes up, green light against next to the anchor. And we all know what happens when you've got the upper hand, right? You get a little swagger. You get, right? It's that. And quite frankly, I only have to win one more ride. Gary's got to win 2. So there's a certain air of confidence that comes with this. What else happens is that when you start at the start line, of course you're held up by your coach, you start at the start line, you draw for positions, inside and outside. I had drawn the inside position. I'm obligated to lead for the first half of the lap. Cat and mouse happens, explosion, finish line, bell run. I get to the start line now. I'm higher up on the position, talking with my coach, and we're going through strategies of how this is all going to unfold. And one of the things that we sort of have a couple of ideas how this race starts to unfold. In my semifinal match against Marty Nostein the day before, I made a fatal error. And that's when I was coming through the final turn down the home straight to get the bell to get 1 lap to go. I was riding in front of Marty, and Marty's back my right hand, he's right behind me. And what I did was, you're always sort of working everything to your left-hand side. And what I did was I looked over my right shoulder. And when you look over your right shoulder on a banked, steep velodrome, you tend to ride up the track, which I did. And Marty Nostein dove underneath me and went on to win that ride, that semifinal match, and relegate me to the bronze medal ride. As I'm riding with Gary, I'm feeling really good. Gary's a great finisher, but I'm going to get him at the finish this time. Like I just feel that confident about how I'm riding, how this kid is riding. As we head through the final turn to get the bell, we're heading down the home straight. Gary's in front. But Gary's down on the bottom of the track and he's in front. This guy's the most beautiful bike rider I've ever seen in my life. He's at the front, he's taking it. He gets the bell, he goes into the first turn. He looks over his left shoulder. And it was just an opportunity that I attacked. I went on and I won the bronze medal. It was taught that old dog a new trick. And it's, we talk about this in high performance sport all the time, about training habits and training instinct. But it was just a moment where I was given that opportunity. I was taught a really significant lesson in failure that I was able to later use to succeed. Okay? And that's what sport gives us, is those ongoing opportunities to test ourselves, to see if what we are doing and how we're moving, we can apply it, we can measure it, and we can figure out if we're succeeding or failing. I mean, the Petri dish of sport is very awesome. Right? But what I learned on that day on July 27th, 1996, was the power of sport. Was the reason why I was there, the reason why I rode my bike. And that's why you are all here today. Is that same, I'm going to use the word, please don't laugh, unbridled passion. And you all share it for the same thing, the horse. Something that looked at you funny one day and made you fall in love. It tweaked its nose, it looked at you sideways, it showed you its teeth, it gave you a hug. But that's why you're here. And that's why you care. That's what brings you your passion. Harnessing. What's with all the terms? Where's all of this? What's with all the horsey terms? But harnessing that power, that passion, that drive, that love is the tricky part. And that is where the magic happens. Ladies and gentlemen, magic. I feel like Disney right there. You are all custodians of your sport in Canada. And you are blessed with the opportunity to make it the best goddamn sport in Canada. We all know that. We all have a passion for the horse. And the opportunity is now. And the opportunity starts here. As the chef de mission for the 2015 Toronto Pan American Games team, Canadian Pan American Games team, and subsequently for the only other time I've ever got to wear this jacket, is the opening ceremonies jacket from Rio 2016. Second time I've worn it. Well, there was that one time, right, sweetie? One of the things that I wanted as my message to my athletes was to have them understand that behind them they had a team. They had a team that was best in class, that was most capable. And if they had an issue, they had this team behind them to solve their problems, to do and be there for them in those moments. So all they had to do was concern themselves with their job. Go out there and beat the best in the world. Some may say that's a little aggressive, to be the best that they could be, to achieve what they never thought they could achieve in the past, however you want to phrase that. But it's our job to build for them. It was our job to build for them that platform. Just so happened, most successful team, 2015, most successful Canadian Pan American Games team ever. Applause. And Rio 2016, our most successful Summer Olympics team ever. Applause. Like that had anything to do with that. But you guys make up what is a very dynamic organization. And quite frankly, very similar to the sport of cycling. Cycling is a multidisciplinary sport. We got people that don't associate whatsoever with what road cyclists do and what downhill mountain bikers do. They do not see themselves as the same entity, yet they share a passion for the same machine. It just really, it is an opportunity that I feel so great about for you. And it's, sometimes my wife will be, it's embarrassing sometimes when I talk in front of her because she gets so frustrated with how I phrase things. But we have Tryon later this year. We have one of the most shining moments, an event that happens only every 4 years that brings the equestrian community, as great as it is, together. We have that opportunity once every 4 years to bring this organization closer together than it's ever been before. And I encourage you to make the start of that journey, if it hasn't happened already, today. To make sure that what you are doing today has an impact on making this organization better tomorrow for the benefit of those athletes that will be donning the maple leaf in your honor come September, mid-September, isn't it? Mid-September, down in North Carolina. It's a simple challenge, and it's a simple opportunity, and you guys have everything that you need to make it happen. I wish you the best of luck, and I'd like to thank you guys for your attention. We're all thirsty. I made you, okay? Probably the longest you guys have been away from the bar on a Friday night at a conference. There are auction items along the side of the wall. And the funny thing is that when we look to ways to support our teams, we always want to look outside sport, our sport. We're always looking to say, why doesn't somebody sponsor us? When, ultimately, time and time again, the only way to build up your organization is from the inside. The only way it's going to happen. So we all actually scanned your credit card numbers when you walk through. That's why we sort of kept you away, because we had those what look like lights on the back are actually card scanners. So we have everything. So just feel free to put your name down on those items. I'd like to thank you guys once again for your time, and I look forward to, if anybody does have any questions, as if, do I still use Per Plus, do I still shave my legs, you know, all that kind of stuff. By all means, I'll be around. I'll be happy to answer those questions. I'm here tomorrow morning to have a great opportunity to talk with next-gen athletes and sort of speak to that journey again, maybe some of the stuff you've already heard, but I wish you guys all a great evening. Thanks.